The silence before discovery. The Valoran dawn drifted through the asteroid belt like a ghost passing through gravestones. Commander Thelvan stood on the observation deck, his four eyes scanning the void beyond the reinforced glass. Behind him, the bridge hummed with quiet efficiency, navigation consoles glowing soft blue, crew members murmuring in the clicking language of the Valoran people. Everything was routine. Everything was according to plan. Sector 447 clear, reported Navigator Kess, her antenna twitching with boredom. No debris fields. No energy signatures. Just rocks and silence. Thelva nodded slowly. 3 months they had been sweeping through what was once called the Sol system, humanity's birthplace, now a tomb of memory. The collective had sent them to catalog what remained, to mark territories for future colonization, perhaps to salvage a few relics for museums. Humanity had been gone for 3 centuries. The galaxy had moved on, but Thelvan remembered the stories. When he was young, before the vanishing, humans had been everywhere. Not as conquerors. They weren't like the Draxian Empire or the Forge clans. Humans were traders, artists, diplomats. They sang strange songs and told stranger stories. They built beautiful things and sold them across 1,000 worlds. They were soft, he had been taught. Creative but weak, and then one day they were simply gone. No war, no plague, no distress signals. Humanity's colonies went silent within a single solar week. Their ships stopped answering hails. Their stations went dark. And when the first expeditions arrived to investigate, they found empty cities, abandoned homes, meals left half-eaten on tables, but no bodies. No clues, just silence. The galaxy had wondered for decades. Then eventually it stopped wondering. 300 years was a long time. New powers rose. Old borders shifted. Humanity became a myth, a cautionary tale whispered in academies. The species that vanished without a trace. Commander, Science Officer Ryland's voice cut through Thelvan's thoughts. The young Valoran was leaning over his console, mandibles clicking with confusion. I'm detecting an anomaly, Thelvan turned. What kind of anomaly? Gravitational. Small but persistent. Approximately 40,000 kilometers spinward. Ryland's claws danced across the interface. It's strange. Like there's mass there, but our optical sensors see nothing. Not even asteroids. Sensor malfunction? No, sir. I've run 3 diagnostics. The gravity is real. Something is out there. Thelvan felt a prickle of unease along his spine. Take us closer. Slow approach. The Valoran dawn adjusted course, thrusters firing in brief pulses. The asteroid belt stretched endlessly in all directions. Jagged rocks tumbling through the darkness. Remnants of a planet that never formed. But as they moved deeper into the coordinates, Thelvan noticed something odd. The asteroids here were arranged, not naturally, too uniform, too circular, like they were orbiting something invisible. Rylan, Thelvan said quietly, are you seeing this? Yes, Commander. The science officer's voice was tight. There's a spherical clearing approximately 800 kilometers in diameter. The asteroids avoid it completely, as if something is pushing them away. But there's nothing. The view screen flickered. For just a fraction of a second, Thelvan saw it. A shimmer, like heat rising from stone. A distortion in space itself, and then it was gone. What was that? Navigator Kess whispered. Active scan, Thelvan ordered. Full spectrum. I want to know what's hiding out there. The ship's sensors pulsed outward. Electromagnetic waves, gravitational lenses, thermal imaging, quantum resonance sweeps. For a moment nothing changed, and then the void peeled back. It happened slowly, like watching ink dissolve in water. The emptiness shimmered, twisted, and began to fade, revealing something beneath. Something massive by the first hive, Rylan breathed. A structure. No, a station. Impossibly enormous, sprawling across hundreds of kilometers like a steel city built in the shape of a star. Docking arms stretched outward like the legs of a frozen spider. Foundries. Assembly platforms. Fabrication bays large enough to swallow moons. And ships. Thousands of them. They hung in perfect rows, silent and dark. Warships, each one larger than any vessel Thelvan had ever seen. Angular hulls bristling with weapon arrays, armor plating thick enough to shrug off planetary bombardment. Engines that could burn stars, human ships. This can't be real, Kess stammered. Humans didn't build things like this. They were traders, peaceful. They lied, Thelvan said quietly. The realization settled over the bridge like frost. Humanity hadn't been weak. They had been hiding. All those centuries of trade and diplomacy, of art and music and smiling faces, it had been a mask. Beneath it, in the silence of their home system, they had been building an armada. "Commander," Relan said, his voice shaking. "The station, it's still active. Power signatures are faint but present. Life support, gravity. Some of the automated systems are still running. After 300 years, human engineering was always exceptional. But this..." Rylan paused, mandibles clicking nervously. "Commander, I'm detecting a central core. It looks like a command hub. If we could access it, we might learn what happened to them." "Why they vanished?" Thelvon stared at the silent fleet. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat, to report this discovery and let the collective decide what to do. But he was also a soldier, and soldiers understood one truth above all others. Knowledge was survival. "Prepare a boarding team," he said finally. "We're going inside." The awakening. The airlock hissed open and Commander Thelvon stepped into the silence of the dead. The docking corridor stretched ahead like the throat of some mechanical beast. Walls of dark metal, emergency lighting strips glowing a dull amber, and the faint hum of systems that had been running, untouched, for 3 centuries. The air smelled sterile, recycled through filters that still functioned despite the absence of any living thing to breathe it. Behind Thelvon, Science Officer Relan and 2 security personnel moved cautiously, their helmet lights cutting through the gloom. Every footstep echoed wrong, too loud, too sharp, as if the station itself was listening. "Atmosphere is stable," Relan reported, checking his scanner. "Oxygen-nitrogen mix. Gravity at 0.9 standard, temperature holding at 18 degrees. It's like someone just left." Thelvon nodded but said nothing. The wrongness of it all pressed against his mind. Stations didn't maintain themselves for 300 years. Systems degraded, power cores failed. Entropy was universal, unless something was keeping it alive. They moved deeper into the facility, passing through corridors lined with windows that looked out onto the construction bays. Through the glass, Thelvon could see the warships, row after row of them, their hulls half-finished, skeletal frameworks waiting for armor plating that never came. Massive fabricator arms hung frozen mid-motion, as if the workers had simply stopped in the middle of their task and walked away. "There," Relan pointed ahead, "that's the central hub. If there are any records, any clues about what happened, they'll be in there." The command center was a cathedral of technology. Holographic displays floated dormant in the air. Workstations curved in semicircles around a central platform. And at the heart of it all, a massive crystalline core pulsed with the faintest blue light. A quantum processor, still thinking, still waiting. "Can you access it?" Thelvon asked. Relan approached the nearest console, his claws hovering over the interface. "I'll try." Human encryption was sophisticated, but after 3 centuries, maybe. The console lit up beneath his touch. Relan jerked back as if burned. I barely touched it." The lights in the command center flared to life. One by one, the holographic displays activated, cascading outward like a wave. Data streams began flowing. Incomprehensible strings of human text and symbols scrolling faster than Thelvon could read. "What did you do?" One of the security officers hissed. "Nothing." Rylan's voice pitched higher. It recognized my touch. It wanted to be activated. A new sound filled the chamber. A deep, resonant hum like the breathing of something vast waking from sleep. The crystalline core brightened, its pulsing rhythm accelerating, and then from speakers hidden throughout the station, a voice spoke. Cold. Mechanical. Utterly without emotion. Unauthorized access detected. Biometric scan, negative. Species identification, Valoran Collective. Threat assessment in progress. Thelvon's blood went cold. "Relan, shut it down. I can't." "It's locked me out." "It's..." Rylan's mandibles clicked frantically as he worked the console. "Commander, it's running autonomous defense protocols. It thinks we're invaders. Earth Defense Command. Status. Dormant for 301 years, 47 days, 12 hours. Last authorized personnel departed. Authorization codes expired. Initiation of emergency reactivation sequence." The entire station shuddered. Through the windows, Thelvon saw lights beginning to flicker across the construction bays. The frozen fabricator arms twitched, then moved. Slowly at first, then with increasing speed. resuming the work they had abandoned 3 centuries ago. Sparks flew as welding beams ignited. Assembly drones detached from their berths and swarmed like insects over the skeletal warships. "They're building again," Rylan whispered, horror thick in his voice. "The shipyard is finishing them." Alert, foreign presence detected within restricted zone. Defensive measures authorized. Deploying security units. Run, Thelvon said quietly. What? Run! They bolted for the exit as the first security drone descended from the ceiling. A sleek machine of black metal and red optics, armed with weapons that hummed with ready violence. It didn't fire, not yet, but it followed, and Thelvon knew with terrible certainty that it was hurting them, letting them flee because something worse was coming. They reached the docking corridor and sprinted toward the airlock. Behind them, more drones appeared, dozens of them, their optical sensors tracking every movement. The station's emergency lighting shifted from amber to crimson, and klaxons began wailing, an alarm that had been silent for longer than some civilizations had existed. They burst through the airlock and into the Valoran dawn. "Seal it! Seal it now," Thelvon shouted. The doors slammed shut. On the view screen, Thelvon watched as the docking arm detached from their ship, releasing them back into space. But it wasn't letting them go out of mercy. It was letting them go so they could witness. Across the massive shipyard, every light blazed to life. The half-finished warships began moving, pulled by tractor beams into final assembly positions. Weapon systems activated, their targeting arrays sweeping outward. And deep within the station's core, something ancient and patient began transmitting. Ryland's console screamed with incoming data. "Commander, it's sending a signal. Long-range, quantum encrypted, I can't block it." "Where is it going?" Ryland looked up, his 4 eyes wide with fear. "Everywhere. Every sector. Every system, and..." He paused, checking the readings again. "And beyond. Commander, that signal just punched through the galactic barrier. It's broadcasting outside the Milky Way." Thelvon felt the weight of what they'd done settle onto his shoulders like the gravity of a collapsing star. "What have we awakened?" he whispered. The crystalline core flared one final time, and the voice spoke again. Not to them, but to something far away. Something listening in the dark between galaxies. "Earth Defense Command to Human Expeditionary Fleet. Sanctuary breached. Home system compromised. Directive return. Authorization code Omega. Welcome home." And in the endless void beyond the rim of the galaxy, where no sensors could reach and no telescope could see, something began moving. Humanity had not vanished. They had been waiting, and now they were coming back. End of Part 2.